Hey, hey. What's up, chat?
What you think about when you're born into a fire? Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away, fade away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. Listen up now, because we're never dropping out. Beat the odds, beat the big house. Our brains are bigger than the doubt. We've been thinking for ourselves, never let the truth fade away. This is bigger than ourselves, we won't let the world burn away, burn away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. To blame, haters face the world's mistakes. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway.
So, Ollie's costume is on TikTok, is going kind of viral. I guess that's It's a real popular game, the Forsaken game that Ollie's character's from. It's super popular with like younger kids. There's like so many kids talking about, oh, this is awesome. Will you be my dad? Will you adopt me? Like crazy stuff. I appreciate it. It's their world, right? I don't know anything about it. That's why I posted it. And I was like, what do you guys think? I only had to look it up after Ollie told me what it was. But they play the game every day and they like it. That makes me feel good about it. Like I did a good job. The game, the best way I can describe the game is called Forsaken. There's another game that I play, and it's called Dead by Daylight, where you have a group of survivors, and then one person plays like a serial killer. And the survivors try to work together to leave, and the serial killer tries to kill everybody. Like you can be Jason or a demon guy. There's a bunch of different characters you can be. That's Dead by Daylight. It's on PC. It's on PlayStation, Xbox. This is the Roblox version of that. That's what Forsaken is. It is like a survivor versus a killer guy. And the killers have different powers, and the survivors have different powers that they can use to help the team or whatever. That's all it is. But it's just, Roblox is not my thing. That's for a much younger crowd. And I'm glad they like it. That's cool. Makes me feel like we did a good job.
Hey Daddies, it's me, the Linda Binda from TikTok. I wanted to make this video because I wanted to thank you for watching Cold Beer Confessionals with Will Bird. I think that's just incredible. I've watched a few episodes and I'm just like very intrigued. But you know what I'm most intrigued in is Big Daddy's meat stick. I heard that it's very thick, like a good old German sausage. You know, Linda and her coochie loves that. Oh, never mind. Let's not go there. Anyways, I hope you have a good show and enjoy it as you can. There's a lot of weird things that go on, especially when it comes from the realm of Linda Bindaland. So, enjoy the show. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Will Bird, and this is the Cold Beer Confessional. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you guys coming out. We didn't do a show last night. I'm pretty sure I warned you guys this, but we were going to, every year there is a trick or treat thing that happens at the zoo, and the kids like to go, and it's not really about the animals. Like some of the animals will be out, like the giraffes are out, the ostriches are out. Most of the animals, because it's cold, are like in the habitat or in storage or whatever the fuck they do. And then they just use like the walk paths of the zoo, and then sponsors come in and they buy like table 1, table 2, table 3, and they give out candy. And we've been going probably the last 2 or 3 years, and we took the kids to that. So it was fun. And then when we come back, we stopped and ate somewhere. It's about a 2-hour drive to get to the zoo. And then we stopped and ate at Chili's about a quarter of the way back or something. And by the time we got home, it was probably 10:30, 11 o'clock. So some people, Oliver loved his cut. Liam's something else that I also don't get, like an anime character. It's called the Joker, but it's not the Joker everybody thinks about, like from Batman. It's a different Joker. And he's that. And I didn't really make any of that. It was like it just wasn't something I could make. It's like I probably could have made the mask. That was about it. The rest of it is like a suit, like a long dress suit jacket, and a vest and a pair of dress pants, and a pair of red gloves. Those are all things that I can't really make. And even Ollie's, I didn't make that much. We bought the robe, and the robe needed basically trim around the sleeves, around the chest opening, and around the hood that was gold. I bought, if you guys sew, I may be calling it the wrong thing, but it's basically like, you know, those fleece blankets. I don't know if everybody used to have these, but I used to have these, and the hospital used to have them. They used to have blue and pink fleece blankets, and they were really like fuzzy. And then on the edge of it was almost like a silk edge, like 2 inches around that went all the way around. That was the same color. Like you would have blue fleece, and then you had like a blue silk edge that was like 2 inches wide all the way around all 4 sides of it. It's blanket edging, I guess is what you call it, or quilt edging. I found some of that at Walmart that was in golds, and it needed a pattern on it, so I drew the pattern with Sharpies. So there you go. That's how I made it. And then his accessory was the little bomb thing. I'd used a 3D printer and some dowel rods to finish it. I think the last time we were live, I was printing with it. Right? I had the printer going. It doesn't matter. I was printing the pieces, and it turned out all good. So I think I have a picture of it. Hold on. Maybe. This is both of them together. Here's a picture. Hold on, let me open it with a different app if it'll allow me. Let's open it with photos, maybe. Wait, I don't have to show my entire phone. So here's Liam's. See, I don't make clothing, right? Like I like to make costumes, but I can't make like a dress jacket and dress pants. But this robe we ordered, all this yellow, I sewed on by hand, and I drew all the designs on it, and then stitched it all up. And then the thing he's holding, I made. That was the little bomb thing that we were 3D printing at the time that you guys are following for. And Ollie loved it, dude. People noticed him and would like wave, and he would like he would take his bomb and he would like show it to him like I'm the real guy. Look, I got the bomb. And he would like they were like every time we were taking a pictures with like a backdrop that was something scary. Like there was one of them that was like a horse from hell or something, like a flaming horse. Ollie wouldn't just pose in front of it. He would point his bomb at it like, I'm gonna get you. It was funny. And then only one person, like 2 or 3 kids waved at him, but they were shy, and Ollie's shy too, so they didn't come talk to him. And I'm like, I think they noticed you. And he's like, I don't know. Then one person finally noticed him. And then on our way out, Ollie was like, well, last year a bunch of people like noticed who I was. And I was like, well, you know, it's cool, man. Like, I'm sure some people noticed you. Maybe they were just shy. And then right as we were leaving, a group of like 4 or 5 girls, maybe a few years older than Ollie, came up. They're like, oh my God, are you Taff? We love Forsaken. That's all we talk about. I always play as that character, blah, blah, blah. And Ollie just smiled from ear to ear. He enjoyed it. He's like socially awkward, like he doesn't want attention, but he also gets upset that no one notices who he is. So it was a good time. That's what we did yesterday, and enjoyed it. We still are going trick-or-treating like usual. I know the community's smaller now than it has been in previous years, but usually we stream walking around and trick-or-treat. I just talk to the camera while we walk around, and the kids go trick-or-treating. So that'll probably still happen, I guess. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Anyways, thank you guys for joining us. I'm Will Bird. This is Cold Beer Confessional. If you wanna support the show, do it on buymeacoffee.com/coldbeer. buymeacoffee.com/coldbeer. I've been noticing a group of videos on TikTok. I don't have any pulled up right now, but I'll just explain them to you. It is beef cattle farmers talking about how liberals don't know anything, and all these liberals in their comments are just telling them to lower the price, that the price of beef is too expensive. You need to lower your price. It's too expensive. And they're like, we don't get to set our price. The market sets our price. We just buy the stuff and raise the cows and then take it to the market sets our price. And they're so mad. They're so mad. These triple trumping cattle farmers are so mad at liberals for telling them to lower the price of their beef cattle, or the beef in general, right at the store. They don't realize that's what they're repeating Trump. My mom made all of me and my brother's costumes this day. It's one of our best memories about her. Oh, thank you. I enjoy it. It is frustrating, and I freak out when the time crunch. Like I was sewing literally until we left yesterday. Like I was hand sewing. I don't have a sewing machine. I was hand sewing on the ribbon, but it's fun to get it. And the kids get to be stuff that normally I would have to be like, no, there's no costume for that. Right. Like I gotta have a costume we can buy, or a costume we can find in the store or whatever. So it's fun. Anyways, the reason that leftists, liberals, whoever, are in your comments telling you to lower the price of beef That's what Trump told you to do. So this is Trump's Truth Social from 4 days ago. It says the cattle ranchers, who I love, don't understand that the only reason they're doing so well, by the way, they're crying about how poorly they're doing, for the first time in decades is because I put tariffs on cattle coming to the United States, including a 50% tariff on Brazil. He's only responding this way because a few farmers lashed out at him, and they're like, why are you buying Argentina beef, right? Why are you buying Brazil beef? Why are you doing this? If it weren't for me, they would be doing just as they've done for the past 20 years. Terrible. It would be nice if they would understand that, but they also have to get their prices down because the consumer is a very big factor in my thinking also. So if you're going to yell at everybody in your comments saying these, I'm not even signed in, saying these things, why the fuck aren't you calling out Trump? Clearly he doesn't know that you don't set your price, that you just go to market, right? The people don't. So how do I explain this? A cattle farmer doesn't take his cattle to be sold and is like, I want, so many dollars a pound. That's not what happens. The market is just at a rate, which you can look it up. What is beef currently going for? And then you go to an auction. Sometimes you do a little bit better. Sometimes you won't. It doesn't matter. But that's basically the growing average. You take them to auction. You decide how many you want to sell, whether you want to keep your heifers and retain them for next year or you want to put them all out there. Whatever the market's doing, you take them to auction and you're going to get somewhere real close to what the auction price is. So Trump telling farmers, you need to get your price. How? They don't even set the price. It's literally supply and demand. One of the worst people that is bitching about this right now is, let's see if we can go to TikTok. You remember the triple Trumper that was crying about Trump maybe making him losing his farm because, what was his name, Scholar? Because he wouldn't release the funds were locked up for some investment they made on his farm or blah, 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 whatever. This guy, Skylar Holden, he's one of the big, and he will not fucking call out, he'll call out everybody else. People on food stamps, the consumers, people in his comments, leftists, Joe Biden. He will not call out Trump, no matter what. It's funny, just to fucking aggravate him. But check this video out. He doesn't realize that the people in his chat are the reason they're saying lower your prices is because they're repeating what Trump said, the guy you voted for.
I'm getting comment after comment after comment. Well, maybe you should lower your prices. If you don't know how this works, then just shut up about it. Don't voice your opinion. Cattle producers and many farmers do not set their prices. We grow our product.
Why, instead of a random person on TikTok, why don't you have the President of the United States tweet here saying, if you don't know how it works, then just shut the fuck up about it? Oh, no, it's just a random commenter on TikTok. Got it.
Whether it's cattle, whether it's soybeans, no matter what it is, we grow our product. And whoever we sell it to tells us what our product is worth. Then they cut us a check. We don't have a say in what we get for our product. So if you think that the American cattle producer is trying to screw over the consumers and it's all about greed, you're completely wrong. Do you want to know why the American cattle producers can't keep up with demand? Because there's fewer and fewer American cattle producers. There's fewer and fewer American farmers because the amount that you guys want to pay for the product isn't enough to sustain the producing the product. And all of you people that fully rely on the farmers and have never produced a single item of food, not even a garden, have an opinion on what you think that product should be worth. And all of you that have an opinion that you think that the product should be worth less and that we're making all this money, why don't you come out here, buy property, buy cattle, and get into the cattle industry? You know why? Because you can't.
6'7".
Because the majority of cattle ranchers have a job outside of the farm to be able to afford to run cattle to provide a product for you. Everybody on
Flat. So usually when it's a product like that, it's usually flash frozen. like they do, instead of like freezing it over long term where it gets freezer burnt, they freeze it instantly. Flash frozen. Then a lot of that beef comes to the United States. I don't think people know this. A lot of the beef that comes to the United States gets here, and then it's mixed with U.S. beef at a slaughterhouse, and then it's called a U.S. byproduct.
On the left just screams for a livable wage, until it comes to the farmers and your grocery prices get too expensive. So now you realize if you want to raise wages, it costs more money for the consumers. If you raise minimum wage, then your products are going to be costing you more whenever you go to buy them. So how is a cattle producer in Argentina able to raise cattle for a cheaper price than cattle producers here in America? If you price land in Argentina, it's about a quarter of the price of land here in the United States. Why is the cattle producer's land so much more expensive here? Well, the cattle producer is fighting against the developers that are trying to put subdivisions on every piece of ground that they can. The cattle producers are fighting against the solar farms because the green energy. The cattle producers are fighting drought here. The cattle producers are fighting disease here. The cattle producers are fighting all kinds of things to provide a sustainable protein for you. Understand that whenever they bring that Argentina beef over here, the packer is going to buy it for a cheaper amount. They're going to keep the prices the same, and they're going to line their pockets with those extra profits. Those profits are not going to be passed on to you. Understand, if we are not able to produce our own cattle, produce our own chicken, produce our own pork, produce our own corn, produce our own wheat, produce our own soybeans, produce any of those things, and we rely on other countries to do so, now other countries have the power over us because we rely on them for our food. That's why farming is so important, because if you can't eat, you die. And other countries know that, and they invest in their agricultural systems. Farmers don't want subsidies. Farmers want a fair chance, a fighting chance for their products to be sold at fair market value. At this rate, if we keep importing beef like we have been for the last few decades, this isn't anything new that Trump just started. If we continue to do this and cattle producers can't afford to sustain their farms, there will be fewer and fewer cattle producers. As there are fewer cattle producers, then we will rely on other imports. As we import more, it's going to keep causing the problem to get worse. People who don't understand agriculture don't understand that because they don't know where their food comes. They go to the grocery store, it's there when they want it, and there's no questions about it. There's never been a time where people can't get to access to food. Make no mistake, other countries know that. Other countries value agriculture. China actually owns a good chunk of land here in the United States because they know the value of agriculture. If you think you can produce the product cheaper, I highly encourage you to get out here, go buy a ranch, go buy a farm, and try it yourself, because you sure as hell cannot do it. As you're trying to buy these farms to farm, so is D.R. Horton, so is solar farms, so is all of these other things that generate more income than farms, and they will pay a higher price for that ground because they can make more money off of it than in agriculture. That is the problem. The whole point here is, if you don't know the American agriculture industry, stay the hell out of it. Don't speak your opinion on it because you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And to all you diehard leftists,
he's so upset. I think Mr. Global did a response to him.
To say I'd rather buy Argentina beef to support a foreign country over the people that voted for Trump, you are the problem with your party, because there's no negotiation. It's either my way or the highway. Either I win or I take my ball and go home.
We're just trying to follow Trump's plan to make Argentina great again.
You are the problem. That's why nobody votes for your people. You have to be able to work together. That's not working together. I have been.
While the Republicans aren't even showing up to work because they can't work together, right? That's the left. You guys don't work together. You guys don't even work together. That's why nobody votes for your people. The Republicans won't even fucking show up to work to negotiate the government shutdown. Their way or the highway, literally.
I have been getting comment after comment after comment. Well, maybe you should lower your prices. If you don't know how this works, then just shut up about it. Don't voice your opinion. Cattle producers and many farmers do not set their prices.
So the shoe is on the other foot now, huh, Skylar? I feel like you're missing the fact that the comments these people are making telling you to lower your prices are just repeating what Donald Trump said.
That's right.
Yeah. I guess you don't want Trump to talk about this anymore either. But the reason I said the shoe's on the other foot now is because a couple of years
It's not usually cheaper at a butcher, but it's better quality if that's what you're after.
ago, I was the one trying to explain to people why gas prices were high. And you were the one making really uninformed and stupid comments about why gas prices were high. Yeah. Remember that? Yeah. I was the one that was saying we shouldn't get other countries to produce more oil to bring down our prices. And if I remember correctly, you were fine with that because it only helped you and it didn't matter who it hurt. Now, the tables have turned and you are not fine with us getting more beef from Argentina. Because guess what? You sell beef. Of course. The difference here, Skylar, is I'm not fine with us getting more beef from Argentina either. Now, a lot of people don't recognize this, but probably 98% of the oil companies in the United States are small mom and pop businesses. But the people only know about the big ones and the billions and billions and billions of dollars they make. So yes, there's going to be a lot of resistance from society when it comes to helping the small companies, because it also helps the big companies that they pretty much are only aware of. And so anyway, because of Trump's policies of begging OPEC for more oil, we've lost somewhere between 25 and 30,000 jobs in the oil and gas industry just this year. Also, you can save, what is gas, 5 cents a gallon cheaper than it was a year ago, if that. And the thing is, Skylar, that's exactly what's going to happen. And I think you know this. That's exactly what's going to happen with beef prices if we get a bunch of beef from Argentina. People are going to save a few cents, but a lot of farmers are going to be hurt. The point is, Skylar, maybe now, even though it's a couple of years later, you can see my point of view from back then when we were arguing about oil and gas. Maybe now you have a little bit better perspective of, where I was coming from. On the other hand, I didn't vote for what's happening to the oil and gas industry, and you did vote for what's happening to yours. Thanks.
I have been getting comments.
That's right. You voted for this.
Comment. Well, maybe you should lower your prices. If you don't know how this works, then just shut up about it. Don't voice your opinion. Cattle producers and many farmers do not set their prices.
So the shoe is on the other foot.
I want to read something to you. Hold on just a second.
I feel like you're missing the fact that...
All right, check this out. Even worse, President Donald Trump's administration has warned that disease issues facing Argentina's cattle industry could impede its plan to import the country's beef to help lower domestic prices. So Trump's like, we're going to try to import beef, but their cows are so diseased, we don't even know if we can import that much, but we're going to do it anyways. On Tuesday, Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins said on CNBC that Trump is in discussions with Argentina regarding the proposal, but said that the country is facing foot and mouth disease issues. According to the World Reference Laboratory, the foot and mouth disease, Argentina has not had an outbreak of this disease since 2006. Newsweek has contacted the Department of Agriculture's Office of Agriculture Affairs in Buenos Aires outside of regular hours for comment. Trump's plan to import Argentine beef, framed as an effort to lower U.S. prices while supporting the country's ailing economy, has faced significant criticism from farmers, agriculture groups, and a handful of Republican lawmakers. Experts also doubt that even substantial imports from Argentina would be able to address domestic supply issues or meaningfully lower record-high beef prices. On Sunday, President Trump told reporters that the U.S. was considering importing some beef from Argentina, which would bring our beef prices down, but also hit our farmers hard. In her interview with CNBC on Tuesday, Rollins noted that over 80% of the beef consumed in America is domestically produced. She said Argentina's own production capacity would likely limit the impact of their imports on America's overall supply, before adding that the Department of Agriculture is monitoring the potential risk of foot and mouth disease. Hoof and mouth in cattle, but foot and mouth in humans. Argentina struggled with outbreaks of FMD, which affects cloven-hoofed animals and leads to reduced milk production, possible fever, and stunted growth. in the early 2000s. In May of this year, however, the World Organization of Animal Health, WOA, declared the country a FMD-free zone with vaccination, meaning there are no active outbreaks, but that animals continue to receive inoculation as precaution. Beyond potential health concerns, Trump's plan has faced pushback from farmers and farming groups in the U.S. who spoke with Newsweek expressed frustration at the administration's plan, viewing it as supporting foreign ranchers over America's own agriculture sector. I'm appalled President Trump, who campaigned on how he loved farmers, is putting American farmers out of business by helping. Who will this affect overwhelmingly more? A gigantic corporation that farms beef, or some guy like fucking Skylar, or a family farm that's been in business for years or 100 years or whatever? Here's the problem. We want to keep those small family farms going. But stuff like this affects them a lot more. They don't have the cash. They don't have the size to kind of even out these gigantic waves that they have to ride. And a bailout would affect them less. So even if we did a bailout and we're like, okay, for every pound of beef that goes to market that actually ends up on a grocery store shelf, we're going to pay a percentage of it back to the farmer to help cover some of their costs. That disproportionately helps the gigantic corporations. So when we fuck them over, we fuck the small farmers worse. And when we try to help them out, we help the other guys more. It fucking sucks either way around it. Let's see what else Mr. Global did.
If you had to guess what ethnicity receives the most SNAP benefits, what would be your guess? Say
White people.
it in the comments.
Overwhelmingly white people.
Muslims. They have multiple, their religion allows them to have multiple wives and multiple kids per wife.
You know, I've seen you say some really stupid things, but this, wow. First of all, Muslim is not an ethnicity. That's kind of a problem because they don't ask your religion. When
White people are on food stamps, the most in terms of total number of recipients, representing 37% of all participants.
you're applying for SNAP benefits. Now, secondly, polygamy is illegal, in the United States. I doubt they're saying, these are all my wives and my kids and getting approved. Like, what? But I think more importantly than any of the stats, everyone can look up any of the stats, is the fact that you are sitting there, lying through your teeth to disparage people of a certain religion. And you know you are. You know how I know you are? Because you don't do anything without asking AI first. You're what I call one of those AI idiots. Like, you can't even think for yourself at this point. Thank you, though, for letting us all know exactly what you are. Seriously, thanks.
If you had to guess what ethnicity receives the most SNAP benefits, what would be your guess? Say it in the comments. Muslims. They have multiple.
That's wild. That's a wild take.
And multiple kids per wife.
The majority of Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, SNAP, recipients in the United States identify as white, according to data from a 2023. Approximately 36.5% of SNAP participants are white, making them the largest racial or ethnic group among all recipients. This is consistent with other recent estimates, which reported that about 37% of SNAP participants identify as white. While white individuals represent the largest share, the data also shows that SNAP benefits are distributed across racial and ethnic lines, with nearly 26% of participants identifying as Black, African American, 16% as Hispanic, around 4% as Asian, and a little over 1% as Native American.
I have been getting comment after comment because they have 1 times 1 equaling 1.
Right.
An action times an action without a reaction. And as a result of it, you get this contradiction with the square root
Oh
of
my
2.
God, this guy's
Q having the
insane.
same value as the square root of 2 times 2.
I just can't believe how unbelievably stupid we have become as a people. There's literally 2 rich men, by the way, on the Patrick Bet David show, debating on whether 1 times 1 is 1 or 2. That's how stupid we are. I mean, seriously, is that not like deja vu from the movie Idiocracy? I mean, I'm being serious. That conversation happened a while back. Blows my mind to this day. Like, it literally could not be any simpler. If you have 1, how much is that? Oh my God. And the scary part about this is we platform these people, we give them a ton of attention so people will watch them because, you know, they need ratings and clicks and views, and they don't consider the fact that there's enough really dumb people in this country. They don't consider the fact that a lot of people are going to believe that stupidity. And that ignorance and stupidity is just going to be elevated and spread. And it's gonna be like, it's contagious. It is literally, stupidity is obviously contagious because the more stupid people we have, the faster more stupid people are created.
Oh my God, what's...
Right? Does that make, yeah. Hey, that makes a lot more sense than 1 times 1 being 2. That's for damn sure. And honestly, the only reason I'm even making this video is because the number of people in comment sections on different social media sites where I see this video, the number of people agreeing that 1 times 1 should be 2 is the reason I'm responding. Because here's the thing, if you think that 1 times 1 should be 2, then do us all a favor and don't breed or procreate. Like, just go sit in your house and don't come out. Can we make a deal? Because I'm gonna be honest, here's the thing, I still have some hope that I could potentially convince some of you people that the sky is blue. But if we're gonna get into math, I'm out. Like, there's absolutely no chance with math. If I can't convince you the sky is blue, forget about math. It's not a thing that's happening. Just completely forget about it.
Because they have 1 times 1
They'll figure it out eventually.
an action times an action without a reaction. And as a result of it, you get this contradiction with this.
So you guys want to see how big Group 7 is getting? Check this out. Netflix. There's a whole category now for Group 7. And of course, with Netflix being Netflix, everything...
You guys know what Group 7... You guys probably aren't part of Group 7. I'm Group 7.
...sucks. Leave a comment below of what movies, shows you want to see in Group 7 category on Netflix. Because this ain't happening. This ain't happening. They don't have a single Quentin Tarantino flick. As a matter of fact, it's almost exclusively chick flicks. But here's the thing. It's not even good chick flicks. It's dumb chick flicks. So use your voice, Group 7. Put it in the comments. What kind of movies and shows do you want on Netflix under our category? Thanks. So you guys want to see how...
All right, let's grab something else. I know you guys probably don't keep up with Group 7. You look like you don't look like you use TikTok very much as often as some. I'm Group 7. It's you're either group. It's a vibe. You're either Group 7 or you're not Group 7. That's all I can tell you. The other videos were from... Oh, I watched a video today. Let's start here. Trump and the Ronald Reagan, I'm only seeing people on TikTok saying they're Group 7. Does that mean I'm Group 7? No, it does not. In fact, the way you asked that, I'm thinking you're a lower group than Group 7. Thank you very much. I would say a large percentage of my town is also on SNAP benefits, if I had to guess. There's just not good paying jobs around here. Minimum wage is still $7.25. Shit's getting more expensive. You know, and I don't judge them for it. Like, if you need assistance, get it. That's what it's there for. I made a video on TikTok today, and I'm like, the people are mega cunts. They come out here and they're like, oh, you're not getting food stamps next month? Good. It's about time. I don't want my money going to feed your family. I don't want pay to feed your kid. What the fuck do you want your taxes to go to? Dude, you know how fucking ecstatic I would be if I got a thing at the end of the year and they're like, every dime you paid out in taxes went to feeding families, educating kids, and fucking keeping them healthy, giving them health care. I'd be like, hell yeah. I didn't pay for fucking wars or military equipment or a ballroom or, you know, a fucking congressman's wages. I just paid for fucking kids to eat, be educated, and stay healthy. What do you want? You just want to, you're like, oh, I'd rather mine go to Jeff Bezos and some type of government subsidy for Amazon Web Services. Where do you want them to go? Fucking retards. Anyways, the Group 7 thing is a girl that just made this video that went mega viral, and she made a bunch of different videos. So she made at least 7 of them that I know of, obviously. And she said, if you see this video first, you're Group 1. If you see this video first, you're Group 2. And for some reason, almost everybody only saw the Group 7 video, and we have no idea why. So if you saw that original video, you were labeled Group 7. And then everybody else started making videos saying, I'm a Group 7, we're the bad bitches or whatever. And then it started going viral that way. Anyways, Trump is claiming that he'll no longer negotiate with Canada because they used AI to make Reagan talk bad about him. And even the Ronald Reagan Foundation, whose entire job is to protect the legacy of Ronald Reagan, decided to bend the knee to Trump and say, oh, they used it out of context and blah, blah, blah. No, they just used his fucking words on tariffs. We've watched the speech here before, but I'll do you one even better. This guy has printed it off and is going to compare it 1-to-1 with what was used in the commercial, which we'll watch the commercial, versus what the speech says.
Okay, so the Ronald...
He's going to read out, this is Dave Columbo, we watch him all the time, do skits or whatever. He's going to read out the parts they left out of the commercial, and you tell me if it changes the context of we shouldn't use tariffs across the board. It just ends up skyrocketing prices and hurting everybody.
Ronald Reagan Foundation says Ontario's ad featuring the former president's anti-tariff speech is misleading. Well, rather than just watch...
The ad misrepresents the presidential radio address, and the government of Ontario did not seek nor receive permission to use and edit the remarks. They didn't edit shit. The Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute is reviewing its legal options in this matter. We encourage you to watch Ronald Reagan's unedited video.
The unedited video on their YouTube channel like they suggested. I copied the whole transcript and isolated the clips used in the ad so that together we can read what those notoriously manipulative Canadians cut out to make the ad so disingenuous. Okay, so for those of us who lived through the Great Depression,
all right, so the words in yellow are being used, right? Now, the words in white are not. Now, there are sound historical reasons for this. For those of us who lived through the Great Depression, the memory of suffering it caused. Like, nothing they left out changed in any context of this.
Memory of the suffering it caused is deep and searing, and today many economic analysts and historians argue that high tariff legislation passed back in that period called the Smoot-Hawley Tariff greatly deepened the Depression and prevented economic recovery. Okay, so not that part. What eventually occurs is first homegrown industries start relying on government protection in the form of high tariffs. They stop competing and stop making the innovative management and technological changes they need to succeed in world markets. Wait, that was what was cut? Okay. The result is more and more tariffs, higher and higher trade barriers, and less competition. So soon, because of the prices made artificially high by tariffs that subsidize inefficiency and poor management, people stop buying. So,
that's exactly what tariffs do.
We all missed the part at the end where he says it's opposite day. It looks like the rest of the speech is just more context as to why excessive tariffs aren't the answer, which means the Reagan Foundation, whose job it is to preserve the legacy and message of Ronald Reagan, just used this rare moment of relevance to throw him under the bus to defend Donald Trump. And this is why Canada cannot be a state, because they actually know our history. Okay, so the Ronald Reagan Foundation says...
All right, let's go watch. Let's go watch the commercial. I thought it was a good commercial. I thought it made sense. But here we go. The anti-tariff ad, which led Trump to end talks with Canada. He says, I'm done talking trade with Canada now because they did this.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down.
Now, specifically, what he was doing was he was talking about tariffs in general, and then he's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do tariffs across the board. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. But we are going to have tariffs here against Japan, basically, is the context of this.
Trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition.
So, yeah, the answer to that is no. He doesn't have any specifics.
America's jobs and growth are at stake.
There you go. They made a 1-minute commercial from a 5-minute speech. They even linked the speech in it.
My fellow Americans,
This is the full speech here. 5 minutes.
Visiting me here at the White House next.
Uh-oh. I paused it and can't start it again. There it goes.
It's an important visit because while I expect to take up our relations with our good friend Japan, which overall remain excellent, recent disagreements between our two countries on the issue of trade will also be high on our agenda. As perhaps you've heard, last week I placed new duties on some Japanese products in response to Japan's inability to enforce their trade agreement with us on electronic devices called semiconductors.
There it is. There it is.
Now, imposing such tariffs or trade barriers
The answer is I saw it on Twitter.
and restrictions of any kind are steps that I am loath to take. And in a moment, I'll mention the sound economic reasons for this, that over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. But the Japanese semiconductors were a special case. We had clear evidence that Japanese companies were engaging in unfair trade practices that violated an agreement between Japan and the United States.
So again, he's
Trading partners to live up to their agreements.
he's not trying to say I'm completely anti-tariff. He's saying I put these tariffs in place here, but there is obviously a level at which we tariff everything and destroy the markets, right? Like a across the board tariff that you just made up and called it against trade imbalances, but you even tariffed countries that we have a surplus of trade with for some reason.
I've often said our commitment to free trade is also a commitment to fair trade. But you know, in imposing these tariffs, we were just trying to deal with a particular problem, not begin a trade war. So next week, I'll be giving Prime Minister Nakasone the same message. We want to continue to work cooperatively on trade problems.
We have very good, it's one of our largest trading partners. We have very good trade with Canada. We actually get a really, really good deal on their oil, mostly because it is a oil that they do not process in-house. It comes to us to process, and we share a border. They don't have to ship it out. They can't get it to the ocean. If they're going to ship it out and sell it somewhere else, they send it down a pipeline and have to load it through our infrastructure to get it to foreign countries.
And want very much to lift these trade restrictions as soon as evidence permits. We want to do this because we feel both Japan and the United States have an obligation to promote the prosperity and economic development that only free trade can bring. Now, that message of free trade is one I conveyed to Canada's leaders a few weeks ago, and it was warmly received there. Indeed, throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. Now, there are sound historical reasons for this. For those of us who lived through the Great Depression, the memory of the suffering it caused is deep and searing. And today, many economic analysts and historians argue that high tariff legislation passed back in that period, called the Smoot-Hawley Tariff, greatly deepened the Depression and prevented.
So it didn't cause the Great Depression, but it almost all economists agree it deepened it and made it last longer, the tariffs that were put on during the Depression.
Economic recovery. You see, at first, when someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. What eventually occurs is, first homegrown industries start relying on government protection in the form of high tariffs. They stop competing and stop making the innovative management and technological changes they need to succeed in world markets. And then, while all this is going on, something even worse occurs. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. The result is more and more tariffs, higher and higher trade barriers, and less competition. So soon, because of the prices made artificially high by tariffs that subsidize inefficiency and poor management, people stop buying. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. The memory of all this occurring back in the 30s made me determined when I came to Washington to spare the American people the protectionist legislation that destroys prosperity. Now, it hasn't always been easy. There are those in the Congress, just as there were back in the 30s, who want to go for the quick political advantage, who risk America's prosperity for the sake of a short-term appeal to some special interest group, who forget that more than 5 million American jobs are directly tied to the foreign export business, and additional millions are tied to imports. Well, I've never forgotten those jobs, and on trade issues, by and large, we've done well. In certain select cases, like the Japanese semiconductors, we've taken steps to stop unfair practices against American products.
It seems like most of the stuff they took out was stuff that had to do directly with Japan. and the stuff they left in had to do with tariffs in general.
But we've still maintained our basic long-term commitment to free trade and economic growth. So, with my meeting with Prime Minister Nakasone and the Venice Economic Summit coming up, it's terribly important not to restrict a president's options in such trade dealings with foreign governments. Unfortunately, some in the Congress are trying to do exactly that. I'll keep you informed on this dangerous legislation because it's just another form of protectionism, and I may need your help to stop it. Remember, America's jobs and growth are at stake. Until next week, thanks for listening, and God bless you.
That was the whole thing. Now, do you think the commercial misrepresented or changed the message that was... I mean, they used his own words. It wasn't edited, right? It wasn't changed. It wasn't AI. It was... I don't... These people are fucking insane. Control F. Let's see. I want to grab Donald Trump's post. Hold on. President Donald Trump announced he's ending all trade negotiations with Canada because of a television ad opposing U.S. tariffs that he said misstated the facts and called egregious behavior aimed at influencing U.S. court decisions. The post on Trump's social media site came Thursday night after Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said he aims to double his country's exports to countries outside the U.S. because of the threat posed by Trump's tariffs. Trump's call for an abrupt end to negotiations could further inflame trade tensions that already have been building between the two neighboring countries. Now, when we were talking about China, right, when Trump pissed off China, they just fucking went somewhere else. What did that do for our soybeans? Destroyed our soybean market, right? They're having to sell soybeans now at a loss. At a loss. It costs more to produce them to the farmer than they can recover when they sell them. Trump posted, the Ronald Reagan Foundation has just announced that Canada has fraudulently used an advertisement, which is fake, featuring Ronald Reagan speaking negatively about tariffs. The ad was for $75,000. They only did this to interfere with the decision of U.S. Supreme Court and other courts. Trump wrote on his social media site, if we think that the Supreme Court is so goddamn dumb that they're being swayed by an Ontario, Canada commercial, is that really what we think is going on? Tariffs are very important to the national security and economy of the USA. Based on their egregious behavior, all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated. Thank you for your attention to this matter, DJT. Fucking retard. Tariffs are good in some cases, right? When we're trying to protect an industry, when it's like the lifeblood, when it's like the only industry we do, sometimes to save an industry, especially if it's like an evolving industry where like, yeah, we know we're probably not going to be the number one world producer in steel mills, but these steel mills keep these towns alive, and we need to do that at least long enough to where we can transition into something else, right? Auto manufacturers get tariffs a lot of the times. They are dumb when you're just like across the board, everybody's getting a tariff because they buy more from us than we buy from them, or we buy more from them than they buy from us. What? That doesn't even make any sense at all. Carney's office did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The Prime Minister was set to leave Friday morning for a summit in Asia, while Trump is set to do the same thing Friday evening. Trump, a Republican, was still at it on Friday morning, furiously posting on his social media site that Canada cheated and got caught. God damn. Canada cheated and got caught on the tariff ad. The United States is wealthy, powerful, and nationally secure again, all because of tariffs, he wrote in separate posts on Truth's social account. The most important case ever is in the United States Supreme Court. God bless America. Earlier Thursday night, the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute posted on X that the ad created by the government of Ontario misrepresents the presidential radio address to the nation on free and fair trade dated April 25th, 1987. It added that Ontario did not receive Foundation's permission to use and edit the remarks. The Foundation said it is reviewing legal options in this matter and invited the public to watch the unedited video of Reagan's address, which we just did. As for the Supreme Court, Trump is referring to the case that is scheduled for early November in which the justices will consider the legality of sweeping tariffs. Two lower courts have determined that Trump cannot unilaterally impose wide-ranging tariffs under emergency powers. Again, it's not that the tariffs are illegal, but he's calling everything an emergency so he can do it all by himself, to where he doesn't have to use Congress. He doesn't have to speak to them. He doesn't have to do anything. It's an emergency for fentanyl. It's an emergency for human trafficking. It's an emergency because I said it's an emergency. It's an emergency for golf balls. It doesn't fucking matter. He just makes it an emergency. His administration argues otherwise, saying he can regulate importation, and that includes tariff policy. Now, even the court said, we're not saying that he doesn't have this power or he can't use this power, and this power can't be used in this way. What we're saying is he's calling something an emergency that's clearly not an emergency and tariffing things outside of this emergency. Like, even if this was an emergency, why are we tariffing countries that have nothing to do with it or that are not tied to it, and it's not tied to the thing that you called an emergency? Carney met with Trump earlier this month to try to ease trade tensions as the two countries and Mexico prepare for a review of the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, a trade deal Trump negotiated in his first term but has since soured on. Again, the trade deal that we are currently operating with Canada on, and people are like this retard that was in the comments a second ago, are like, well, Canada's just fucking us over and Trump's trying to fix it. It's under Trump's trade deal that he negotiated the first time in his office. He got rid of NAFTA and put in his U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, and they're abiding by it. He said it was the best piece of fucking legislation that was ever written. And now they're fucking us over. More than 3/4 of Canadian exports go to the U.S., and nearly 3.6 billion Canadian, 2.7 billion U.S., worth of goods and services cross the border daily. Trump said earlier this week that he had seen the ad on television and said that it showed that his tariffs were having an impact. I saw an ad last night from Canada. If I was Canada, I'd take that same ad also, he said then. In his own words on X last week, Doug Ford, the premier of Ontario, posted a link to the ad and the message. It's official. Ontario's new advertising campaign in the U.S. has launched. He continued, using every tool we have, we'll never stop making the case against American tariffs on Canada. The way to prosperity is by working together, which is a quote from Reagan. A spokesperson for Ford didn't immediately respond to a request for comment Thursday night, but Ford previously got Trump's attention with an electricity surcharge to the U.S. Trump responded by doubling steel and aluminum tariffs. The president has moved to impose steep U.S. tariffs on many goods in Canada. In April, Canada's government imposed retaliatory levies on certain U.S. goods, but it carved out exemptions for some automakers to bring specific numbers of vehicles into the country, known as remission quotas. Trump's tariffs have especially hurt Canada's auto sector, much of which is based in Ontario. This month, Stellantis said it would move a production line from Ontario to Illinois. Associated Press, that's just the writers. I don't think, remember when they were trying to tell us that we don't pay the tariffs over and over and over and over and over and over and over again? They finally got people to finally admit that the importer pays the fucking tariffs. I think I saw, what's his name? Who's the guy that you always defend, legend, that always looks like he's crying? Luke Beasley? Is that his name? I saw him finally get somebody to admit that the importer pays the tariffs, finally. I think it was a Jubilee clip. It might be old, honestly. Is this it? No, it looks like it's pretty recent. Uploaded 11 hours ago.
Every time Trump says foreign countries are the ones who pay the tariff, it's not U.S. companies, he's lying.
First of all, I'm a businessman. I do gross CFO work around the world. I got hundreds of clients. I've been 30 years of building businesses.
Beautiful.
I can tell you firsthand the reason why many of my American companies can't get into foreign markets is because of tariff barriers.
Just because Trump always seems
Right. You can't get into foreign markets because tariff barriers, sure.
confused about this, who is it that pays a tariff?
Well, the importer does.
The importer.
Right.
So every time Trump says foreign countries are the ones who pay the tariff, it's not U.S. companies, he's lying.
That's true. It's
He's lying.
importer.
Okay, good. It's weird for his whole economic policy to be.
he's lying. His entire policy is based on this weird lie. Even Scott Bessent tried to describe it as a candy bar in the candy store and a tariff, and you pay $1.10 instead of $1, but you didn't really pay it.
Based on a lie, but
Well,
okay,
what does it do? So the tariff barriers create fair access. So it's all about fairdom. Americans, look around the room. You got some of the most talented people you will ever know in the world. We can give us a chance to compete, level playing field. We will do the work. We will bring in the international business. Many of our jobs, with globalization, which I led, many of our jobs have gone international because of unfair tariff practices. Even when we had property in China, we had to hire a non-tariff barrier. We had to hire a Chinese spy to be in our telecom company, still in our secrets.
Okay, that's like a random anecdote. We got to go more. When you look at the impact, we've seen job growth slowing, we've seen GDP growth slowing, unemployment ticking up, employment getting worse. That's all an impact of him slapping these features. He's also tariffing, just quickly, Brazil, which we have a trade surplus with, so it's not the trade barrier reason. He's tariffing countries where it doesn't even make coherent sense because he's upset about this thing or that thing, but then we're the ones paying the consequences.
Let's be clear.
That's incoherent.
Let's be clear about impact. In the second quarter, GDP was at 3%, which is a normal range.
But it's slowing. It's not growing. It's not speeding up. It's slowing.
For us.
It is within a normal range, but it's slowing. If Trump was right about his policies and what he claims, then it wouldn't be slowing. It would be speeding up. It would be raising.
In the second quarter, GDP was at 3%, which is a normal range for us. Core inflation is at 2.1 to 2.4%, which is normal for us. Unemployment down at 4%.
You agree that we saw 48 consecutive months of job growth?
He inherited unemployment at 4%
under Biden, and then Trump came in and we lost jobs for the first.
That's wild. 48 months.
4%, which is normal for us. Unemployment down at 4%.
You agree that we saw 48 consecutive months of job growth under Biden, and then Trump came in and we lost jobs for the first time in June, I think it was.
But we agree there's 4% unemployment.
The first time ever. And then he fired the guy. He fired the people that track the numbers.
Well, he was handed 4% unemployment. You can't give him credit for that. That's what Biden gave him. So every time Trump says foreign countries are the ones who pay the tariff, it's not U.S. companies, he's lying.
First of all, I'm a bit.
This actually just came out, I guess. It is, you guys can go watch it. I can't play it on here. It is one Gen Z liberal versus 20 boomer Trump supporters. And that is Luke Beasley's one. Who pays the tariffs? That's been the biggest question that they will not move on. Oh, I know the video that I was thinking about. The people are speculating on perhaps what is going on with the ballroom. And the price of the ballroom. People are looking up, like, what is high-end, high-end, like luxury homes that are built in the D.C. area, and what is the average price per square foot, right? And then estimating what Trump's proposal is and the cost per square foot, and it's still like double. So I feel like, this is what I feel like is happening. That the price tag is artificially inflated, and the companies that are donating are obviously doing it for favors. They're doing it for favors either way, but I also think that the price is inflated to get more people to donate more money. The first donor was Google that was donating for some type of penalty for some reason. Other people are speculating that there could be other things being built along with. Is this the video I was talking about? Hold on. Let me see if this is it.
So I found this really interesting.
That other things could be built as well as the ballroom, right?
Post by an architect who is insisting that the ballroom So I found this really interesting post by an architect who is insisting that the ballroom project that Trump is proposing is not even real. And this is his justifications. His name is Andrew Kerr, and he's an experienced architect with 20 plus years of experience. And he says it's not even real. Number one, with a projected size of 90,000 square feet and a newly revised budget of $300 million, the cost per square foot would be $3,333. No building costs anywhere near that. $1,000 per square foot is astronomical. Number two, let's assume since we are drawing in the classical style that the
yeah, that's bullshit. Like that was Congress appropriated all those funds after a report that came out from President Bush that renovations needed to be done to upgrade the building's infrastructure, and Congress approved that. That's a different scenario, but go on.
Portions of the building adhere to the golden ratio. A 90,000 square foot building would be a building with a
Congress spent it.
Congress
spent it while Obama was in office at the recommendation of George Bush.
380 by 235, longer than a football field and 1.5 times as wide. The building is required to accommodate.
I remember when it happened. I think it was HVAC work, fire alarm sprinklers, electrical upgrades. It was all infrastructure stuff.
999 people. 15 square feet per person is required for a banquet area. 20 square feet per person is pretty close.
They're mad. They're mad that he painted a basketball court over the tennis court. The tennis court lines are still there. It's like, if you ever went to a park where you can like play tennis and what's the other one that all the old people play? Pickleball, basketball, all in the same Foursquare, because all the lines are there. He painted basketball lines at the tennis court, left the tennis court lines there, and put up 2 goals. They're like, he built a basketball complex.
That Trump is proposing is not even real. And this is his justifications. His name is Andrew Kerr, and he's an experienced architect with 20 plus years of experience. And he's
I'm gonna look that up.
Real. Number one, with a projected size of 90,000 square feet and a newly revised budget of $300 million, the cost per square foot would be $3,333. No building costs anywhere near that. $1,000 per square foot is astronomical.
$1,000 a square foot is pretty fucking fancy, and Trump's well over $3,000 a square foot.
In the classical style that the proportions of the building adhere to the golden ratio. A 90,000 square foot building would be a building with a footprint roughly 380 by 235, longer than a football field and 1.5 times as wide. The building,
like it's your house, and I've been there multiple times. Thanks.
Building is required to accommodate 999 people. 15 square feet per person is required for a banquet area. 20 square feet per person is pretty close to comfortable. What you see in the rendering below, which I'll screenshot, is closer to 20 square foot per person. That's only 20,000 square feet, or a space that is 200 by 100. It's supposed to be a ballroom, so let's be extraordinarily generous and provide 10,000 square feet for the ballroom support functions.
All right, 10,000 square feet.
Square feet for pre-function. Extraordinarily generous. That's still only 40,000 square feet, not even half of the supposed building. Number 3, there are no drawings for the building. The renderings are poorly coordinated. Exterior views do not match the interior views. See below.
That's the first thing I thought. When we see, I've been on a lot of construction projects. It does not seem like the pictures he's holding up of the inside and the model he has, it looks so much bigger from the inside to the outside. Like I don't know who he's got designing it, but it's almost like AI generated these.
The White House is 70 feet tall to the roof. The interior renderings show a room that is roughly 100 by 200 with a 20-foot ceiling. The exterior renderings show a building footprint of 4.5 times that amount.
But it happened when Trump was president.
Those are the renderings that could
Anything to lick boots. Anything.
be produced by a young staff in a week or two.
Give me those delicious boots.
Nothing else exists. So besides the hypocrisy, besides the actual demolition of a historic building without permits or processes or permission, because who needs that? It's really interesting that even in what he has presented, that architects, or at least this guy, is like, this is not even a real thing. Like, this is not even a real project, which begs the question, is this just another distraction? Which, if it is, he's willing to literally sacrifice whole parts of the White House and, as we know, like actual functioning parts of government, because it is.
And then have like Carolyn Levitt come out and be like, the building's not going to be touched, the structure's not going to be touched, and it's just the awning. Trump even said it's going beside the existing building. The existing building's not going to be touched, and then to tear down the entire East Wing was weird.
More important things. I just like pointing out hypocrisy. However, it does beg the question, why? If it's totally fake, why?
I have every right that has ever existed to bitch about this country.
Why is it happening? I don't know. So I found this really.
I fought for that right, and I am keeping it. No one's gonna take it away from me. This is the post that she's talking about. Here's why the new White House ballroom project is not real. The demo is obviously real. Some background. I'm a licensed architect with 20 plus years experience. I have worked on multiple federal projects with sensitive building programs that required background checks. Another thing that's not in this post, this is me talking, was that Trump said we're even checking in with the military when we're building this. I don't know what the fuck that means, but he said that. One, with a projected size of 90,000 square feet and a newly revised budget of $300 million, the cost per square feet would be $3,333. No building costs anywhere near that. $1,000 a square feet is astronomical. Let's assume, since we are drawing in the classical style, that the proportions of the building adhere to the golden ratio. 9,000 square foot would be a building with a footprint of roughly 380 by 235 feet, longer than a football field and 1.5 times as wide. The building is projected to accommodate 999 people. I did hear that from the president. 15 square foot per person, which is required for a banquet area. 20 square foot per person is pretty comfortable. What you see in the rendering below is closer to 20 square feet per person. That's only 20,000 square feet, or a space of 200 by 10 or 200 by 100. It's supposed to be a ballroom, so let's be extraordinarily generous and provide 10,000 square feet for the ballroom support functions and another 10,000 square feet for pre-function. Extraordinarily generous. That's still only 40,000 square feet. Not even half of the supposed building. There are no drawings for the building. The renderings are poorly coordinated. Exterior views do not match the interior views. See below. The White House is 70 foot tall to the roof. The interior renderings show a room that is roughly 100 by 200 with a 20-foot ceiling. The exterior renderings show a building of 4.5 times that amount. Those are renderings that could be produced by young staff in a week or two, at most. Nothing else exists. What the fuck? I read yesterday that the East Wing was destroyed this week because Trump is furious with Americans for protesting last weekend. He wants to hurt us by destroying something we love. Seriously? Also, what is the plan for the underground bunker? Depending on its size and its defenses, it could easily be the most expensive part of the project, or is this an extraordinary money laundering scheme? I think the price is inflated, and I think that companies are paying for favors. We saw the list of the companies, right? Just seems weird. And the fact that it doesn't match left to right. Thank you for the months.
Trump can take D's nuts for his new ballroom.
Yeah, you're gonna donate them, you idiot. Thank you for the resubscription. I appreciate it. It just doesn't add up, right? No one is advocating for treating cartel people like fucking welcome guests. The problem is you can't even prove who was on the fucking boat. You just blew it up. Let's see, where were we at? It does seem weird. The ballroom price does seem extremely weird. The square footage, the renderings, everything seems strange, which I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of security measures, but is there an entire other floor underground that no one's talking about? I don't know what it is.
The iPhone will flop. The Berlin Wall will stand for 100 years.
Tell me how close they were to the United States. How many days away were they from the United States? If they drove at 50 miles an hour constantly towards the United States, how close were they?
Nobody will ever need more than 640 kilobytes of RAM. All stupid things people said at some point in history that were not true. Implicitly not true. When Steve Bannon says that Trump's going to have a third term, that is a magnificently stupid statement. Let me explain to you why. It would cause the entire freaking country, not entire, but that 80% of us who have a brain, although a lot of us can only read at a 6th grade reading level, to actually scream all at once. You have to understand what Steve Bannon does. We've been talking about this a lot over time. He believes in muzzle velocity. He believes in keeping things coming to get you to talk about them. He doesn't really believe this is going to happen. He really doesn't probably believe that Trump's going to.
You made the argument they were fishermen. I mean, they could have been sightseers. They could have been vacationing. They could have been hanging out. They could have been test driving a speedboat. You made the arguments they were fishing. I don't know what you want. Can you not answer how far away they were for the United States?
Going to live that long anyway. But this guy, this is what he does, is he gets people's attention this way. And why does he need to get people's attention this way? Well, that's because the Epstein files. Every single thing is because of the Epstein files. Look at the No Kings route. There was no way for that narrative that Trump was putting forward to work. There's no way. Nobody paid for it. Everybody just showed up. And it was huge. Biggest one in history. So he pitched a tantrum because we were, again, starting to talk more and more about the Epstein files and decided to just tear up the White House, illegally doing so.
Yeah, I didn't think you could.
Oh, but what
I knew you couldn't. That's the reason I asked the question.
Is freaking new. If I've said this once to you, I've said it 100 times. We will come out of this shit eventually. The snapback will be better. I'm going to tell you something that has changed my thinking. And I didn't see this coming. I'm a capitalist. I own a couple of businesses. I believe in that.
If they had nonstop, if they didn't have to stop for fuel and could drive at 50 miles an hour straight the entire way, they were still 50 fucking hours away. That's not counting at least 17 fucking fuel stops they'd have to make.
System, and nobody I work for, it works for me, would say that I'm that ass that we talk about in other places, because I'm not. But for the first time in my history, I think we need to take people and institutions like the ones that are supposedly paying $300 million for a ballroom that would only cost maybe about $1,200 a square foot. And it's like almost $3,400 per square foot. But they spend $300 million. All these tech bros and billionaires that are buying influence. So as much as I'm surprised I'm saying it, I think that we're going to have to go to a place where we implement a wealth tax on people who are of the highest earnings. I mean, when I say like, I'm talking about people that make, tens of millions of dollars a year. Okay. Because what happens right now with people that are well off is they don't have any income. They're able to loan against their assets, and by doing so, they're able to have cash, but not.
This is what we were talking about.
Liability for it because they never received it as income. And as long as you have that ability, you're never going to tax the rich. The person working at McDonald's.
All right, back to this.
The iPhone will flop. The Berlin Wall.
These are statements that people made that were obviously not true, and they believed in them so strongly at the time.
Stand for 100 years. Nobody will ever need.
Reason why I've been catching other replays, but I'm up tonight because I misjudged my bread fries. Oh no! Well, I'm glad you got fresh bread.
More than 640 kilobytes of RAM. All stupid things people said at some point in history.
If you can't answer basic questions about the things you're advocating for or against, you get a ban. I guess you couldn't even tell me how far away they were from the U.S. You had no fucking idea. Imagine a fucking cop pulls you over for running a stop sign, walks up to your car and blows your fucking brains out and was like, well, he could have been going to murder somebody, and that's why he was in such a hurry to run the stop sign. They were in a speedboat off the coast of Venezuela, days away from the United States. If anything, if they really wanted to cover their base and still blow them up or whatever the fuck you want to do, they had plenty of time just to fucking watch them and get images or get information or gather intelligence or identify the people and be like, this is a known drug dealer. Here they are. Here's their background. Here's who they're working with. Here's what they're delivering. Nope. Blow them up. And then when they asked the president, like, well, is there any evidence they were drug dealers? Oh, it got blown up too. All the evidence is blown up. It's all well and good until somebody's fucking family member is on vacation somewhere in South America on a speedboat and they get blown out of the fucking water. Then what? You shouldn't have been down there. You shouldn't have been on a speedboat. Fishermen aren't on speedboats.
True. Efficiently not true. When Steve Bannon says that Trump's going to have a third term, that is a magnificently stupid statement. Let me explain to you why. It would cause the entire freaking country, not entire, but that 80% of us who have a brain, although a lot of us can only read at a 6th grade reading level, to actually scream all at once. You have to understand what Steve Bannon does. We've been talking about this a lot over time. He believes in muzzle velocity. He believes in keeping things
keep blasting shit out and people will keep talking about it.
Coming to get you to talk about them. He doesn't really believe this is going to happen. He really doesn't probably believe that Trump's going to live that long anyway. But this guy, this is what he does, is he gets people's attention this way. And why does he need to get people's attention this way? Well, oh, that's because the Epstein files. Every single thing is because of the Epstein files. Look at the No Kings route. There was no way for that narrative that Trump was putting forward to work. There's no way. Nobody paid for it. Everybody just showed up. And it was huge. Biggest one in history. So he pitched a tantrum because we were, again, starting to talk more and more about the Epstein files and decided to just tear up the White House, illegally doing so. But what is freaking new? If I've said this once to you, I've said it 100 times. We will come out of this shit eventually. The snapback will be better. I'm going to tell you something that has changed my thinking. I didn't see this coming. I'm a capitalist. I own a couple of businesses. I believe in that whole system, and nobody I work for, it works for me, would say that I'm that ass.
We've talked about this. The billionaires effectively end up paying no taxes. And the way they can do this is if you own enough stock and blah, 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 you take loans against that stock. You pay that money back as you gather income, right? And you don't report that as income, ever.
That we talk about in other places, because I'm not. But for the first time in my history, I think we need to take people and institutions like the ones that are supposedly paying $300 million for a ballroom that would only cost maybe about $1,200 a square foot. And it's like the almost $3,400 per square foot. But they spend $300 million. All these tech bros and billionaires that are buying influence. So as much as I'm surprised I'm saying it, I think that we're going to have to go to a place where we implement a wealth tax on people who are of the highest earnings. I mean, when I say like, I'm talking about people that make, tens of millions of dollars a year. Okay. Because what happens right now with people that are well off is they don't have any income. They're able to loan against their assets, and by doing so, they're able to have cash, but not have a liability for it because they never received it as income. And as long as you have that ability, you're never going to tax the rich. The person working at McDonald's is going to pay a higher rate than the rich are. So
companies may just know that the price tag on it is a bullshit number, but they don't care. They're paying for deals. They're paying for favorable contracts and EOs and potential pardons or whatever, right? They're just paying it. They don't care. That $3,333 per square foot is fucking wild, dude. Like high-end luxury homes, super luxury homes, $1,000 square foot.
When I say
We're
rich,
triple
I'm
that.
talking about
Over triple that.
I don't think a guy who makes a couple $1 million a year because he's busting his ass is that rich. And you probably shouldn't either. I mean, I don't make that much money, but I could see where somebody making that isn't being like egregious. But when we get into, 40, 50, 60, $70 million a year, that starts changing a little bit. And maybe we should charge them enough to pay for national base income, single payer healthcare, and education. I think that'd be a good start. That's quite a pitch for me. I didn't think I'd get there. Peace out. The iPhone will flop. The Berlin Wall will stand for 100 years.
Oh, let's see. They did, King Sport. This is really close to me, guys. Like 40-minute drive. The closest big city to me is Johnson City, Tennessee. But a larger city that's doing all right. That's beyond that is Kingsport and Bristol, I guess. But Kingsport actually got featured on the news because of how overwhelmingly Trump it is and the size of their King's Day protests. Hold on. I think this is the video.
Kingsport, Tennessee is in the northernmost part of Tennessee. It's really close to Kentucky and also Virginia. It's a really Republican corner of Tennessee. In the 2024 presidential election, Trump won the county surrounding Kingsport by 55 points. He didn't win with 55 points. He won by a 55-point margin.
That's insane. 77%.
Margin, which is why nobody expected this from the people of Kingsport, Tennessee. This was the last no Kings.
Why do we care? Typically, we don't want private industry paying. We don't like the looks that they're paying for favors. Second, there should have been more done in preservation and looking at and saving. He tore down the entire East Wing. Which has a lot of history with it. It goes back a long way, especially a lot of first ladies, their contributions, what they did. I think it should have been handled better. It should have been reviewed. It probably should have been approved by Congress. Just like we were talking earlier, there was $300 and some million worth of renovation that went on the White House when Obama was president. Now, it wasn't for Obama. It was actually George Bush. His people recommended it. By the time it got to Congress and was approved, it was when Obama was in White House, but it was like for infrastructure, HVAC, electrical, shit like that, right? $307 million that was approved by Congress, but it went through Congress. It wasn't unilaterally one guy just decides, hey, I want everything to be gold and look like Mar-a-Lago, so I'm going to crowdfund it, and these people that want favors from me are going to pay for it.
Day back in June, about 2,000 people lined the streets of Kingsport, Tennessee for almost a mile through the center of town. 2,000 people protesting.
Every president makes small changes, different changes, stuff that's added. The people put in a pool for an indoor swimming pool inside the White House at one time. The problem is the difference is it goes through appropriations, it goes through committees, it's approved.
The Trump administration.
Trump appointed the guy that hands him his EOs as the head of the board that decides or that reviews these things. For federal buildings in D.C. And then the guy said, oh, we have no jurisdiction suddenly, even though that board's approved every other project from every other president ever.
Represented about 10% of the total population there, 10% of the town. In a county Trump won by more than 50 points. We show a lot of protests on this show, big ones and small ones, from major cities to really small towns. Anecdotally, I will tell you, having looked at so much of this footage, I think the consistent, sustained movement we have seen against Trump this year really has looked and felt different.
It's wild that Kingsport, Tennessee would be featured, especially when we got a 55-point difference. And they had a pretty good size No Kings rally.
By a 55-point margin, which is why nobody expected this from the people of Kingsport, Tennessee. This was the last No Kings Day back in June. About 2,000 people lined the streets of Kingsport, Tennessee for almost a mile through the center of town. 2,000 people protesting the Trump administration. That represented about 10% of the total population there, 10% of the town. In a county Trump won by more than 50 points.
I don't think it's the biggest deal. I think there's much bigger deals like ICE agents and a bunch of other stuff. But it's not just it. It's the fact that he has this mentality that he does what he wants and nobody can fucking stop him. And if he does it quick enough, even if you could stop him, it's too fucking late. The same thing when the judge ordered him that they couldn't deport people without due process to a fucking goddamn torture facility in El Salvador. That he's like, oh, the plane's already left. No, they didn't. You had the judge's orders. Well, we didn't get the written order. Now they're telling him, hey, like, isn't this something that's usually approved by Congress? We already tore it down. Sorry.
We show a lot of protests on this show, big ones and small ones, from major cities to really small towns. Anecdotally, I will tell you, having looked at so much of this footage, I think the consistent, sustained movement we have seen against Trump this year really has looked and felt different, not only from Trump's first term, but also really from any other presidency ever.
Did you guys see the interview? Hold on. Along the same mentality. What's the guy's name? Emile Beauvais. Coming in and telling them like, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to do these deportations. We're going to do these flights. And if we get an order we don't like from the courts, we're just going to have to tell them, fuck you. It was 60 Minutes. Ruvini, was that the guy's name? Hold on. Here it is. Arez Ruvini was on his way up. He was an attorney at the Department of Justice who was so effective defending President Trump's first-term immigration policy that he was promoted right away in Trump's second term. But Ruvini's 15-year Justice Department career ended suddenly after he says he witnessed government lawyers lying in court and evading orders of judges. These last few months have been a time of upheaval in the Justice Department. Now, Ruvini's claims are raising concern in courtrooms across the country. The administration has called Ruvini a leaker, seeking 5 minutes of fame. But in his first television interview, Ruvini told us he's paid the price. Speaking up cost him his dream job. Ruvini, even before I went to law school, I understood that understand what I wanted to do as a lawyer was to be involved in public service. And everyone understood at the time, you do it at the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. There's no better place as a young attorney to do just the sorts of cases where you're standing up in court as a first-chair attorney on behalf of the United States, doing things that law firm partners don't do. Scott asked him, and that meant what to you? Ruvini, that meant I was there on behalf of the American people, on behalf of the millions of citizens of this country to make sure that justice was done. Ruvini started in 2010 as a so-called career attorney. Most lawyers at the Justice Department stay for years, even decades, defending the policies of one president after another. Ruvini specialized in immigration law, and in his first Trump term, he defended the controversial ban on travelers to Muslim countries, among other cases. I was promoted. I received 3 awards for defense of high-profile litigation. I defended everything that they put on my plate. That was my job. And at the beginning of the second Trump administration, you were promoted again. Ruvini, that's right. Very soon into the administration, I was selected to be the acting deputy director of immigration section, overseeing about 100 attorneys in every case that arose in the federal district courts. But it was the very day of that promotion, Friday, March 14th, that he and others were called into a fateful meeting with Emile Beauvais, President Trump's newly appointed number 3 at the Justice Department, who was once Trump's criminal defense attorney. Ruvini says, and we were told in that meeting that over the weekend, the President of the United States would be signing a proclamation invoking something called the Alien Enemies Act. This is a wartime law from 1798, invoked 3 times in the nation's history during the War of 1812, World War I, and World War II. The Alien Enemies Act allows rapid expulsion from the U.S. of the citizens of enemy nations during a war. But without a declared war, Trump used it against more than 100 Venezuelans that the government said were terrorists. They were to be denied their right to be heard by a judge. Ruvini says above expected a challenge. Oh, it's supposed to be Beauvais. Ruvini says Beauvais expected a challenge. Beauvais emphasized those planes need to take off. This is a closed-door meeting the weekend that all this happened. He says those planes need to take off no matter what. And then, after a pause, he also told all in attendance, and if some court should issue an order preventing that, we may have to consider telling that court, fuck you. Again, the same mentality that Trump has. Fuck you. We're doing it anyways. Scott Pelley says, and when you heard that, you thought what? Ravini says, it felt like a bomb had gone off. Here is the number 3 official using expletives to tell career attorneys that we may just have to consider disregarding federal court orders. The next day, Saturday, lawmakers for the prisoners sued. Judge James Boasberg called a hearing and asked the government lawyer, Drew Ensign, whether the planes were leaving that weekend. Ravini and Ensign says to Boasberg, I don't know. Now, Ensign was at the same meeting that I was at that day before, where we were told in no uncertain terms that the planes were taking off over the weekend, that those planes needed to take off no matter what, and he says to the judge, I don't know. Ravini says that moment in court was stunning. It is the highest, most egregious violation of a lawyer's code of ethics to mislead the court with intent. We don't know Ensign's intent. It was during the hearing that the planes took off. The judge issued an order, and immediately, Ravini emailed the agencies involved. The judge specifically ordered us not to remove anyone and to return anyone in the air, but that didn't happen. Instead, more than 5 hours after Boasberg's order, the detainees and other prisoners arrived at the maximum security prison in El Salvador. Ravini says, and then it really hit me. It's like, we really did tell the court, screw you. We really did just tell the courts, we don't care about your order. You can't tell us what to do. That was a real gut punch. Again, this guy was handling all of Trump's immigration before, being promoted and given awards and promoted and promoted and promoted. And then this time it's different. Why? Because they don't give a fuck. They're doing what they want.
And now there's new data to back that up. New research from the Kennedy School at Harvard. A new paper titled, The Resistance Reaches into Trump Country. Quote, the share of counties hosting at least one anti-Trump protest has risen markedly during Trump's second term, surpassing the historic spikes observed during.
Also, I was listening today about the damn, hold on. Let me finish playing this.
In his first term, compared to what we saw in the first Trump term, the average anti-Trump protest has grown by more than 60%. And compared to his first term, there are more protests in what we traditionally think of as pro-Trump areas of the country. More than ever before, places like good old Kingsport, Tennessee. In the months that they studied this year, these researchers found that, quote, the median protest county in the U.S., cast more votes for Trump than Harris in the last election. The resistance reaches into Trump country. The reason these political scientists are documenting this stuff is because they found over time and in multiple countries that if you want your resistance movement to work, if you want it to wield power and cause change, your resistance movement needs to be big, it needs to be sustained, it needs to be nonviolent. And it needs to take root in new places where there are new people who will join you, people who maybe weren't with you in the past. And according to this new study from Harvard, the protest movement against the second Trump presidency really checks all of those boxes. The protests are bigger than they were in Trump's first term. They are more persistent and sustained. They are more widespread. They are in more pro-Trump areas of the country.
And they're nonviolent.
And of course, they are nonviolent. Kingsport, Tennessee is in the...
It was cool that they got featured. So this is a new thing. The Department of Agriculture came out a few days ago and said, so the Department of Agriculture had a webpage up that had been up for years about government shutdowns and saying that they operated with this emergency contingency fund and that they could fund the food stamp program with it. Right, that page has been up for years, ever since government. You remember a while back there was like a government shutdown like every few months because they would just have to push it out. Well, they had this page up that basically told people not to worry, and that they had this emergency fund that they would use to fund food stamps in case of a government shutdown, so people could eat, so people wouldn't fucking die. They pulled that page down from their website. And now they're saying they cannot use those funds because they're only for true emergencies, like hurricanes and natural disasters. The Agriculture Department says it can't use contingency funds to pay for food stamps during the government shutdown, and that states won't be reimbursed if they cover expenses on their own, according to a new memo. Some states, like Virginia, Tennessee's telling people to get fucked. Some states, like Virginia, are sending out what they can and trying to cover it, what they can and hoping to get reimbursed. The Department of Agriculture went ahead and came out and says, no, we won't reimburse you. Starting next month, about 42 million low-income people won't get SNAP benefits if Congress doesn't agree to a deal to fund and reopen the government. Now, in its 24th day, the shutdown threatens to take a real toll, not just on federal workers who are going without paychecks, but also many of the nation's neediest citizens. The SNAP freeze could kick in as an increasing number of Americans are going hungry and relying on food banks as the economy cools. Senate Democrats essentially shut down the government by demanding that Republicans who control Congress extend Affordable Care Act subsidies. Without the subsidies, healthcare costs could soar for over 22 million Americans on ACA plans. Now the shutdown could pit the needs of those 22 million ACA enrollees against the needs of 42 million who go without food assistance starting November 1st. And they relish in this chaos. The Republicans love it. The SNAP program has contingency funds that could cover at least 2/3 of the shortfall, according to the Democrats, and groups who called Friday morning on the administration to tap it. House Democrats accuse USDA of avoiding accountability and ignoring its own shutdown funding plan, which was struck from its own website that indicated they would use emergency funds during a shutdown funding plan. Again, this is it. It's gone now, but this was up on their website. Their shutdown funding plan. Now USDA says there's less money in the fund, and it's a one-page memo it issued Friday says it's only for true emergencies like hurricanes, tornadoes, and floods that can come on quickly and without notice. Again, it's on the way back machine, but they struck it from their website. This existed up until this current shutdown. Then they struck it from their website. For example, Hurricane Melissa is currently swirling in the Caribbean and could reach Florida. The memo says having funds readily available allows USDA to mobilize quickly in days and weeks following a disaster. There is no provision or allowance under current law for states to cover the cost of benefits and be reimbursed, the memo also warns. Friday's guidance from the Agriculture Department is the latest salvo in a string of memos and legal opinions designed to pressure Democrats into approving a clean CR or continued resolution to fund the government. President Trump has used guidance from the White House, Office of Management and Budget, OMB, to move money around to pay military expenses and cover SNAP-related program for 6.7 million people known as WIC, which stands for Women, Infants, and Children. What they're saying. Liberal group Center for American Progress released an analysis Thursday that argued that Trump has legal obligation to continue SNAP funding and accused him of cruelty. From terminating funding used to purchase food for schools and food banks to passing the largest cuts in SNAP history, the administration made it clear that its goal is to take food away from hungry families, and the sentiment is extending to the USDA's approach to the shutdown, it wrote. The group said Trump should move money around in the budget to pay for SNAP, just as he did with WIC. But the USDA, OMB, said more transfers to WIC will be needed. The administration will not allow Democrats to jeopardize funding for school meals and infant formula in order to prolong their shutdown. So this is how they're trying to basically break. What's crazy is like, okay, let's say there's 100 people in the room, okay? And you have to decide what color the walls are going to be. And 40 people want it to be red, and another 40 people want it to be blue. Okay? You don't have the majority. There's 100 people in the room. That's 80. Typically, those 40 people would show up on each side and lay it out and try to convince, like, well, maybe we go with a purple, or maybe we get this guy to vote with us, or this guy to vote with us, or that guy to vote with us, right? We have to get above that threshold. Nope. They don't even want to show up. Again, the government's supposed to work under negotiations, right? Somebody's supposed to show up and say, okay, well, you want this. Here's what we're willing to offer. They will not. negotiate any fucking thing. They won't even fucking show up at all. They're just demanding that what they want be passed and fuck everybody else, and we'll keep it shut down until then. And then blaming the Democrats and saying they want health care for illegals, which is not a thing. We're not trying to give health insurance to illegals. Not a thing. It's not happening. I don't know. It's wild and cruel to people, and I don't know. To use people like this is just insane. And then we got all the right-wing influencers I talked about earlier on TikTok saying, well, I'm glad we're not paying for your food stamps. I shouldn't have to pay for... Where do you want your taxes to go? I don't understand. Let me fund another billionaire's fucking bailout. Like, what the fuck? It's wild. Kentucky governor is going to fund the food stamp program for... That's good. Clearly, they want to be as cruel as possible to as many people as possible. That's the only thing I could fucking tell. I don't know. It's insane. It's insane right now, and I don't know how else to describe it, I guess. Let's see what this is. It just popped up on my page.
Someone to make it make sense. I need someone to make it make sense. I can't get my diabetes injections anymore because they went from $76 to $499 a month.
That is a 1,000%, 2,000% reduction in price that Trump promised, right? Oh my God. The White House released guidance. We'll finish watching this. The White House released guidance on how Trump figures up what is 100% decrease in price.
These injections literally keep my A1C and my blood sugar at bay. But because...
Now that sucks. And you almost had me. I was this close to actually feeling bad for you. That close. And let me show you what changed my mind.
It's a sick joke. But if you're a crackhead or you're poor or anything else, everything gets handed to you on a silver platter. But if you're middle class working, it's like you're just absolutely screwed.
Well, now that I know who you voted for, because you're somebody that likes to punch down and not do your own research on why your insulin prices have skyrocketed. You voted for him. You voted for Trump. And now I know. There you go. He reversed Biden's executive actions on drug pricing pilots. Pause the read. Then I went through your comments, and I saw that this lady says, did you just blame poor people? And your reply was, during venting, yes. In Louisiana, they get a lot of handouts. Are you kidding me? This is the problem. You punch down, when all along, you should be punching up. Poor people didn't do this to you. It was the guy you voted for.
The billionaires are convincing you that other poor people are fucking you somehow.
Knucklehead. It was Trump and his administration that upped your insulin and skyrocketed it through the roof where you can't pay for it anymore. To now where you're crying. You're crying on TikTok for people to feel bad for you. We don't feel bad for you. You voted for this. Tell me what you guys think in the comments. And as always, have a day.
I need someone to make it make sense.
Let me see if I can find this video quickly. I just saw it the other day. So basically, Trump thinks that if something goes from like 50 to 100, right, that's a 100% increase because the price doubles. He thinks if the price gets cut in half, that is 100% discounts, even though that's not 100% discount. Let me see if I can find. I know this guy did the video. I just got to find it. Sorry, I'm looking. Give me just a second. I swear I saw this guy do the video, and he had the receipts. Damn it, where is the video? Sorry. I know I've got this one. This is not the right one, though. Hold on. We can still watch it, though. You can watch that while I'm looking.
You've got to see this video of Donald Trump breaking down the math behind his genius plan to lower the cost of prescription medication in the United States by over 1,000%.
You understand? Yeah. And we're going to be reducing drug costs over the next year and a half by not 50 or 60%, by 1,000%. Because if you think a $10 pill going, so it'll be raised up from 10 to 20 because it's the world versus us. So the world.
Let's just try to break down this genius here. I think he's discovered a new method of mathematics. If you think of a $10 pill, it will be raised from 10 to 20 because it's the world versus us. The world is the bigger place. Interesting. Going on to say it will go from 10 to 20 for them, which is bearable, and it will go from 10 to 20 for us. I think he's got it all figured out. This is obviously complete nonsense. You can't reduce something by 1,000%. That would mean the pharmacies are paying us to take medication. And also, his own example proves the exact opposite. He literally said a $10 pill will become $20. That is an increase, not a reduction. And even if it was a reduction, that would be a 50% reduction, nowhere near 1,000%. This guy has no idea what he's talking about. He just strings together random words, numbers, and exaggerations that sound good, but mean absolutely nothing when you think about them for 5 seconds. You've got to see this video of Donald Trump breaking down the math behind his genius plan to lower the cost of prescription medication in the United States by over 1,000%.
You understand? Yeah. And we're going to be reducing.
This is a wild clip, but it's older.
Year and a half by not 50 or 60%, by 1,000%. Because if you think a $10 pill going, so it'll be raised up from 10 to 20 because it's the world versus us. So the world.
Let's just try to break down this genius here. I think he's discovered a new method of mathematics. If you think of a $10 pill, it will be raised from 10 to 20 because it's the world versus us. The world is the bigger place. Interesting. Going on to say it will go from 10 to 20 for them, which is bearable, and it will go from 10 to 20 for us. I think he's got it all figured out. This is obviously complete nonsense. You can't reduce something by 1,000%. That would mean the pharmacies are paying us to take medication. And also, his own example proves the exact opposite. He literally said a $10 pill will become $20. That is an increase, not a reduction. And even if it was a reduction, that would be a 50% reduction, nowhere near 1,000%. This guy has no idea what he's talking about. He just strings together random words, numbers, and exaggerations that sound good but mean absolutely nothing when you think about them for 5 seconds. You've got to see this video of Donald Trump breaking.
I got one more thing for you. This is what I was looking for the other day. I don't know if you guys remember. This is the field text message I couldn't find. Shaq got back to me. He had it. So here we go. You ready? This is after Randy. Carrie responded with him. This was Randy sent the evidence of Phil texting his daughter to Carrie, Phil's wife. Okay, that's this right here, a screen recording. Here we go. So these are all the text messages, right? 2 years ago and the ones yesterday saying, are you 18 yet? And then Carrie says, who is this with? Why is there no other person in the chat? ? He gives his daughter's name. I talked to him 2 years ago about it, but he's denying that also. So he was actually busted twice. Then he came back and said 18 yet. He was hitting on her when she was 15. Then he came back like a year and 3 months later and said 18 yet? Hurry up and grow. Then Carrie sends a ? And he says, just so you know, okay? And she says, daughters? My one daughter, I have multiple daughters. Sorry, I was aggravated. If I put daughters, doesn't really matter. She was still 15 and now she's only 17. And I thought he was married. Are you his wife or no? I am, she says. So you don't care he likes young girls? I'm very confused because I could. Swear you have $1. I will be calling him now. How could you keep your kids around him? What the fuck? I'll let the law handle this, he says. I should have called 2 years ago. I thought he would know better. He already told me somebody hacked his account. So do you know if his account is getting hacked 3 days ago? Because I'm sure you would know. He's nothing but a liar and a pedophile. Blocked. Done. No response ever again. Done. At least somebody finally, she can't deny she's seen it now, right? She can't deny somebody took it directly to her fucking face, showed it directly to her. This is it, right? Done. Gone. Nothing left. I don't know what. Phil bought her another tummy tuck, or maybe this is when she got her boob job, or maybe he promised to fix her snaggletooth. Something. But she doesn't give a fuck. The money's too good. Something. I don't know. Imagine keeping your daughters in that fucking house and they're calling him dad when you know he's attracted to underage girls. Again and again and again and again and again. Insane. All right, guys. Carrie's always bitching. That's why she's in the kitchen. The greatest rapper alive. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being here. Support the show at buymeacoffee.com/coldbeer. I'm out of here for the night. I got to work in the morning. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being here. Thanks for hanging out with me. Go over to buymeacoffee.com/coldbeer. That's this website here. If you want to make a donation, help pay the bills around here, we greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys for joining us. I will be streaming on Halloween, hopefully. I think it will probably do it that Friday night. What does the calendar look like? I can't remember if Mariah said we were doing it on Friday or Saturday. Halloween falls on a Friday, so it'll probably be a Friday night stream if you guys want to do that. I just walk around. It's not super exciting. Me and the kids and the wife just walk around, and I usually live stream the whole thing. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. We'll see you about the next one. Have a good night. Love you. See you. Bye. I know some people like it, but it's probably not other people's things. You know what I mean?
About if this douchebag happens to see this particular show, you don't have the forking balls to call out the people on this planet by name and tell them exactly who they are and tell them the rest of the world who they are. You don't have the forking balls. You don't have the balls.
Yeah, it's going to be rough on the construction for sure.
I think I started some shit. This month it's about to get lit. Get the place in the best.
So, I've worked with a bunch of good immigrants doing construction. Here's what I don't like. One of the companies I worked at building those yard barns or whatever, they paid by the building. So like if you built a building of a certain size, you knew exactly how much you had to make. And if it had, like you made mistakes on it and somebody had to fix it, that docked your pay too. Like if they had to send a guy out to, move something or cut something you forgot to cut out or fix the trim or whatever. You were in a bay and however much money that bay made. So you could have a partner, you could have, 2 guys working there, 3 guys working there. As long as you were pumping out enough buildings to pay 3 guys, right? The problem came when the owners got greedy and they found out that they could abuse immigrants. So basically, they would have an immigrant and instead of having 1, 2, 3 guys in it making a decent wage, they would hire an immigrant or whatever. And then he would bring in 20 of his friends that they all rented a house together. And they were making like they were putting out a bunch of buildings, but they were making pennies on the dollar compared to what he would have to pay for normal working conditions. Right. But because they all lived in the same house, they all rented together, they all did the same thing. Like they were happy making those pennies on the dollar. But that's basically what that whole company turned into. Right. It's just him abusing immigrants. They can't stand up for themselves. They can't demand anything because he'll just tell them, sorry, get the fuck out of here. I'll call immigration. And they're working for well below minimum wage. I could make decent money. Like if I really busted my ass and was putting out a shit ton of buildings and had nothing go wrong, no tools break, no nothing, I could make decent money there. I couldn't keep up with 20 guys in one bay putting out buildings and they're all making fucking $1.50 an hour. You know what I mean? Like that's fucked up. And somebody should call ICE on him, not to get rid of the immigrants and all that shit. They're just doing what they can to get by, but because of the way he's fucking treating people, you know what I mean? And he knows it. It's crazy. Anyways, back to the music.
What's that thirst? Baby eating lizard people, alien sex. What's next? Trump in a dress, fucking Flynn on his desk. A retard in a vest, climbing up 5G towers. Cause you told him if he did, he'd get fucking superpowers. Here we go, I think I started some shit.
Oh, that's a good job then, Q idiot. I like those government contracts. Maybe I'll wander out to Arkansas and work for you for a while.
Piss him off, it's about to get lit. Get the bass in them beds, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. I used to find clues too when I was high on shrooms. I found myself a tunnel that led to Jason Q's bedroom. Open his closet, I found some of his meat rockets. I strapped them to my shoes and then I flew through the roof. I found myself in orbit strapped to an F-16. High on amphetamine, with Trump in between. Put on a light coat of baby oil and saluted the troops. He tapped me on the shoulder and said, this is gonna be it. Whoa, wait. Stop. What?
Holy shit, a 10-year job?
Stop. Fucking stop. Dude, come on. Seriously.
Must be a big job.
Oh, give me a... Oh, my God. Damn it. Here we go. I think I started some shit. Piss them off. It's about to get lit. Get the place in them beds. You know that stage is set.
I have companies call me every once in a while, offer me like either foreman or superintendent position, shit like that, but I don't know. I would sound like a bitch, but I don't know if I could handle the pressure again without like some type of outlet. I don't know. I used to just get really fucking shitty drunk every night, but I don't drink anymore, so.
Getting rocking, he was doing so well. It's all over. Hands on
the last job I was on, I was superintendent over the steam turbine decks at Duke Energy. And I got through about 90% of it before I left there. Something like that.
Conscience, it's hard to sleep at night. Who the fuck is in my window with this time of the night? These parasites, these leeches, with all their secret meetings, teaching all you fucking cretins about baby-eating heathens. Believing in reason with no meaning is bullshit. Will Bird motherfuckers out here busting the grifts. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss them off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in them beds, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up.
I like doing millwright work. I like doing layout, alignments. I like layout's pretty fun. Just laying out a building, the pads and the anchors and the pedestals and grouting everything in and getting it ready for grout and have somebody else grout it in. I like that.
Your mother's basement, and I won't even give out your dime store handle because that's really.
Have a good night, guys.